So first one is that, what do you remember the times when you actually heard metal music for the first time?
Yes, I do. I think my first introduction to a bit harder music was I got Nirvana's Nevermind album. And on that, there was like a few songs. There's the song called Territorial Pissings, where he starts screaming towards the end. And I was like a little bit put off by it, but it was also very intriguing. So that was like, oh, I've never kind of knew that anybody could do that with a voice. And I was like 8 at the time, so I was very young. And then I got one of my friends from grade school. He burned like the first Slipknot self-titled for me back when they were still burning CDs and handing them out in school.
Slipknot self-titled was also the first sort of like extreme metal album for me that I heard. And I also hated it at first, and now I'm like the biggest fan of the band. So yeah.
I really, really liked it from the get-go. But it was also felt, I was 9 or something when I got it, so they looked scary and the music felt scary, but it was also, I couldn't stop listening to it. It was very catchy at the same time.
But they were also scary for each other also around that time.
Yeah, I've heard.
So how about like your vocal journey? How did you ended up into bands?
I actually started out playing guitar.
Okay.
I remember buying an electric guitar at some like, what's it called, like a yard sale.
Okay, yeah.
And just like playing with that and had a bit fun with that, and it never really got that serious. And then I went to a boarding school when I was like 16, I think, and there was a music room, and I wanted to do a band with some of the other guys there. And at first I thought I'm gonna play guitar, and we wanted to play like metalcore, like in the veins of As Late Dying, Parkway Drive. And I soon realized like, oh shit, I'm not nearly good enough to play any of that on guitar. So I was like, I'll try doing vocals then. And that's kind of how I got into it. And I was horrible at it for the first few years, and then slowly kind of like just progressed and found my voice, if you will.
So when you started like singing, were there like some certain songs that you first tried to cover with like those first bands that you had?
We actually just wrote our own stuff
immediately.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't very good, but we were like 16, so like I feel like it's all right for what like our age and like experience level. So I just started writing.
So were you basically like playing every day with the band and sort of trying to figure out new songs, and then you are also trying to figure out how to learn to scream and sing? Or was it like singing in the beginning?
It was screaming, because I was just yelling at first, like you'd yell like the same way you'd yell if you're angry at somebody, because like I didn't know what else to do, like, and it totally fucked up my voice a lot of time. It's like, and then for a while I did inhale vocals because I saw some guy on YouTube doing it. I was like, oh, this sounds kind of cool. I guess that's how you do it. And it's not how you do it. It's terrible. And like, it sounds weird. Some people are probably good at it, but it sounds kind of weird, and you can't really get the right amount of power into the screams. And like, yeah, it was just a weird thing I did for a while.
So did it take like a long time to figure out the right technique for the like screaming, so that, like you said, you wouldn't lose voice after every practice you do?
Yeah, for me it took like a few years. I don't think it ever really came naturally to me, so it took me a while. I was also like doing it on and off. I had like a period of some years where I didn't play, I didn't sing. I was just playing bass and bands instead, because I was like, I want to be in bands, I don't want to sing. I'm not good enough for the guitar. Bass it is.
Okay, but then you still returned back to vocals.
Yeah, I got Shanghaied by Chris, songwriter and guitarist, one day on a night out. I hadn't been doing like these kind of like extreme vocals for a while, and he pressured me into trying out. And while we were really drunk, because I'd said no at first when they asked me, because I didn't want to do vocals. I didn't want to like be in a deathcore band, and then he sent the songs to me. I was like, oh shit, this is good. I I need to give this a chance. And then I started taking seriously, like to do vocals again and actually practicing. And I think the biggest change was I started doing warm-ups and like taking that stuff really seriously.
Were you ever like watching videos from YouTube, like sort of like how you should do it, or how did you figure out the right technique for the screaming and growling?
I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, especially. I feel like for me, it really clicked when I started doing warm-ups, like being like,
Okay.
oh, you shouldn't just go right into it. There's like you can spend 20 minutes, half an hour doing like these voice exercises, breathing exercises, and that really kind of like helped me not to feel sore. And I think it's still hard, like it's still something that kind of like straining your voice no matter how good you are. I feel like if you do it over a long period of time, it's still like hard. Same with just singing.
So did you had like some kind of like idols when you started growling and screaming? Did you had like some vocalists that you sort of like looked up to around that time?
Yeah, it was obviously like Corey Taylor because I just love Slipknot. But I was also really a big fan of Parkway Drive at the time. So Winston McCall, the vocalist from there, I really thought he had a really, really sick voice. And also Phil Boseman from Whitechapel was also one of the first time I heard him, I was like almost laughing because he feels so extreme, but at the same time
he's very good.
He was also so cool. So I feel like those three were like very influential on me.
Were you ever trying to like sort of mimicking them and covering some of their songs like at your own, or was it like, has it always been with the band that you have been singing?
Yeah, I tried to kind of mimic them for a while, but I also kind of quickly found out that it's better if you try to sound like you. You can obviously take inspiration and be like, okay, that technique is cool, I'm gonna try to do something, but you shouldn't. I would say you should never try to sound like anybody else, because that's just not like, it's probably not gonna work out because you sound like you. So you need to find out how, like, what your voice is, and then you can implement other people's techniques, like be like, okay, I want to do gutturals and stuff like that, but you need to make sure they come from you, because otherwise I feel like the times I've tried to like sound like somebody else, it's been like more strained than necessary, and like just doesn't really work like that, I feel like. And I did cover like
everybody is sort of unique, so it's impossible to make similar sound that Corey Taylor does, or like you said, Phil Boseman, or
yeah. But I did definitely cover a lot of Whitechapel and Parkway Drive songs in the band rehearsal, just like as practice or warm-ups before like the band came. Just go there, like go through one of those, like do my exercises, go through a couple of their songs like on low power, just to like get warm.
So when it comes to like the first recordings that you did, were you already like okay with your voice around that time, or did you have to have like a lot of retakes in the studio to sort of still figuring out the right way to sing?
Yeah, I feel like the first one I did with Cabal was like for the Purge EP, and it was kind of like, it was a whole process. Also because I came almost directly from, I've been traveling around the US with a friend of mine for 3 weeks, and then flew back and went almost right into the studio. So I was super jet lagged. So I was like alternating between doing takes and then sleeping on the floor for a little while. And so I had to take a lot of takes, also because I feel like the main problem wasn't really my voice. I've gotten better a lot since, but I think it was like mostly a self-confidence thing. I didn't at that point, I didn't really feel as comfortable with doing it as I do now.
Okay, so what made you like more comfortable with the voice?
It's just,
or has it just come by time?
It's just by doing it and doing it and doing it and then doing it some more. Like, I feel like it's the old saying that practice makes perfect. Not that I'm perfect or anything, but it's just like the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll be at it, or in it. Like,
so when you started to do like shows and you did like more shows in a row, did you have to adjust the way you did the screaming and growling? Did you sort of learn new techniques for it? Because that's way different than playing just like one show at weekend and then the next like month away.
No, I just learned like it was more like the way I kind of like treat myself, or my body, which is the instrument.
Yeah.
So it's like, so now I'm like, when we tour, I'll have a few beers every now and then, but I won't party every day. Don't smoke on tours. I don't like, I rarely drink on tours. So, and
So
I
you
drink a
try
lot.
to live quite healthy and also get enough sleep.
Yeah, enough sleep as well, drinking tea, trying to eat healthy, get some workouts in. So just like it, I just figured out, okay, if I want to do this at the kind of like level I want to, I need to take care of my instrument, which in my case is my body. So.
And you nowadays do warm up before every show.
Yeah, I do. I drink tea, do warm ups, also just stretch and maybe do a quick workout or something like that. I feel like once you activate your body, it's also easier to like lean into like extreme vocals.
But you have similar kind of like routine after, like before every show.
Yeah, I have these like kind of like jaw and like vocal cord stretches. I do lip rolls and just do like little humming things just to kind of wake up the voice. I even bought like one of those, what are they called? A vocal mist is like one of those things that like emits like a little bit of misted water.
Okay.
So it's kind of like to rejuvenate and kind of like rehydrate your voice.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot. Like I try to only use it if I'm feeling kind of strained, because it's also like breathing in like vaporized water every day might be bad for your lungs. I'm not sure. But
yeah. But you do it when you feel that you need to do it.
yeah, exactly. Otherwise, like warm-ups and tea, I'm good.
Are there like some certain drinks or foods that you rather not have before the show, that you feel that it affects your vocal cords, or you just don't want to have them, that it affects the show?
I don't know. Like I try to not eat right before the show. I haven't really found anything like food wise or drink wise. I feel like affects my voice in that sense. Like
Okay.
obviously alcohol dries out your voice. So I'm not gonna get drunk before show.
Yeah. And obviously, when you are drunk, you're also losing the control. So you'll fuck up your voice that way.
Yeah, it's a bad idea. Like I've had like, if I've been kind of having a cold or something like that on tour, like a few shots of whiskey is actually quite nice. It doesn't like hydrate or anything, but kind of gives like, it warms you up in some sense.
Yeah.
So that can be helpful. But yeah, I don't really like. It's more for me. It's more about like not eating right before the show, because I like to jump around a lot and like headbang a lot and stuff. So I need to be like not like in the, it's called like in a food coma.
Yeah. So it's more like a food thing rather than a drinking thing.
Yeah.
So what kind of memories do you have when it comes to like your first European tour? What kind of what kind of experience it was like vocal wise for you?
I was struggling on that tour, because we were doing a DIY tour with the band called Hexes. If you know that. Yeah. That was some of our good friends from back home, and they brought us out for our first tour. But it was really DIY in the sense that we had to drive everywhere ourselves and had to like find places to sleep, which means that like we had long drives on that tour, because we were touring in Ukraine like for a lot of days, and like the roads there really like destroyed.
Yeah.
So you couldn't drive very fast. We had to drive 10 hours some days, and that meant that we got almost no sleep, which I found like was really like doing a number on my voice. I didn't really get to I didn't get any restitution. So like, so that was kind of hard. I pulled through, and it sounded pretty decent most of the shows. There was like a few where I'm like, oh shit, it sounds really bad right now, because like my body's just so exhausted.
Yeah, sleeping is very important, and there you can actually see it, I guess, quite well if it's like day after day after day like that.
Yeah, I don't function on like, if I only get like 3 to 5 hours of sleep every day for an extended like period. And I really feel it taking a toll on my vocal cords. Everything just like, it's like doing extreme vocals is kind of hard on your body. So if your body is just totally exhausted, it's even harder to do.
Was that a good like like learning experience for you.
Yeah, I feel like we figured out how we didn't want to tour. Like,
Yeah, and I
like
guess
okay,
you also learned like quite a lot as a vocalist about yourself.
yeah. So I know I need to prioritize sleep. I need to get at least 6 to 8 hours every night. Again, otherwise I'm gonna have trouble.
So what were like your parents' reactions when they heard for the first time that you have started doing growling and screaming? Do you remember?
I can't really remember actually if they had any like reaction. I think they were kind of like pretty supportive about like me playing music.
Okay.
I feel like at certain times they were maybe a little bit not too excited about me focusing way more on playing music than like going to school and stuff. But like especially now where it's like kind of taking off, I feel like they're very, very supportive and have been like since they kind of like realized it's just not a hobby that I'm spending all my time on, that it's actually something that like like a real thing, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
They've been like really, really cool and supportive about it. And I don't think they were so surprised about me starting to do that stuff, because they always like they kind of like could hear what kind of music I was listening through my door. So I think they.
So with Cabal, is there like some certain album that you feel that you have learned the most about yourself as a vocalist, and you feel that this album is sort of like a very big step up for me as a singer?
It was definitely Drag Me Down. That was like the album we released in 2020, our second album, and that was like the first album where I feel like, okay, now I sound like me.
Okay.
I know what my voice is, and I feel comfortable doing it.
Were you trying some new things for that album as well, like singing wise?
Not. I don't really think I tried out so many new things, more than just like kind of like got good at the things we were doing on the first record, because I feel like I'm already doing like quite a few things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just feel like that was like when like most of the things kind of clicked. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I know exactly how I'm gonna do this thing. Where on the first record and the EP, there were some things I was doing that sounds good on the record, but I also know that was like I was straining too much to get that sound I wanted. And yeah, and on Drag Me Down, I was kind of like at the stage where I knew what I was doing.
So how much are you like nowadays thinking that how does this sound when I'm singing this live when you are in the studio?
Like
so when you are like recording vocals, let's say for example this Magno Interitus album that you just dropped, were you like thinking more about the live situation when you are recording also in the studio, that I need to also do this live after putting these on tape?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like my biggest concern with that stuff is always like, and it's my own like damn fault, like I have a tendency to put on a lot of vocals. Like I'm not really concerned about like being able to do the sounds. I know I can do that because I'm doing it in the studio. That means I can, and I know I can do it live. The only thing is like, okay, it's the challenge of I want to be able to move around, and I also need for somehow to also have air to perform all of these very rapid fire vocal lines that I like to add. So that's kind of like just me kind of like dreading you need to go out running a bit more to like be able to do this, I guess. Like,
so you are like jogging and doing a lot of sports on your own nowadays as well, or?
Yeah, I kind of like always have been. I've like been doing sports since I was a kid, and I had some years where I stopped, but I really feel like when I do take like my cardio sessions, like when I really take them like seriously and really buckle down on that, I can really feel my lung capacity like increasing, which means jumping around, screaming your head off feels so much easier.
Of course, if you are in better shape, you can do like more.
Exactly. So I work out almost every day, just also because the way we move around on stage, we headbang like all the way into the ground. So I know I need to like make sure that my back is strong and all that kind of stuff. My core is strong, so I don't like throw out my back during a set or something like that.
So how is your neck on tour? Is that sore always?
Like I feel like the first few days you might get what we call the bangovers.
Yeah.
Where you're like, everything kind of like hurts after. If you haven't played a show for a while and start a tour, we're all like almost like walk around like old men, like, oh my god, my body is so like. And then after a few days, you kind of like feels like your body just adjusts and it just stops and you feel good again. Like,
so are there like some certain songs on the like album that you today dropped, Magno Interitus, where you are like the most proud of, like vocal wise, where you feel that these are like my songs sort of?
yeah, I feel like I just like the title track I really like just because the chorus I wrote for it, I feel like it's very catchy and I thought it was fun to do like catchy vocal line, even though it's like it's not clean singing, but it has some notes to it. It's kind of like a Gregorian chant almost.
Yeah.
And also there was the song called Blod og Mit, where I kind of like tried out some things that I really hadn't done, like a weird like talky kind of thing. That's fun to try out, and there's some screams on that where I like that sounds absolutely insane because I was like purposefully doing it in a way where I knew that like I'm not gonna be able to replicate it live because it destroys my voice doing it that way. But there's like there's a few screams where it goes like into this weird overtone. So I was like, oh, this is cool. It hurts, but it sounds really sick. So
okay, but you won't be able to replicate that.
I can do it, but every time I do that, like I can't do. That's like I feel like those screams, the way I do them is just ignoring all technique and pressuring as hard as I can, like, which is not how you're supposed to do it, but it will sometimes give you like these weird, almost like screechy screams. Like if you listen to Blod og Mit, there's like a part in the electronic part before it kicks into high gear, and you can hear it there.
Okay. But do you feel that if you are pushing the voice like again and again and again, that it will sort of learn to those sounds eventually?
Maybe. The thing is, like with those sounds, it's like they come from a like conscious lack of technique.
Okay.
And for the most part, like every time I try out something new, it'll make my voice sore because you need to learn how to do it. And I will learn how to add proper technique to it. And with those screams, I know they sound the way they do because I'm purposefully ignoring the technique. So I don't really know how I would be able to do those sounds without like ruining myself.
So when you were doing those like more of like talkative vocals,
yeah,
were you afraid that you are sort of like more upfront and more like naked in a way?
Yeah, it also just felt a little bit weird because it was like not something I'd really done much before. And I'm just so used to like it has to be some variation of screaming.
Okay.
So I was like, oh shit.
But the same said Winston when I interviewed him many times, that there will never be any clean vocals in Parkway Drives. But I guess if you are listening now to Darker Still, there is quite a lot of clean vocals.
Yeah, there are.
So times change as well.
They do. And maybe if I feel comfortable enough to sing someday, I might do it if we have a song where it makes sense. Like I'm never gonna sit here and say, like I'm not gonna sit here and say there'll never be clean vocals in Cabal. Maybe someday we want to make some real money in music and I'll start singing.
Hey, Andreas, thanks a lot for the time and all the best for the release of the album. As a last question, I would like to ask you that are there like any advices that you would like to give to a young like metal vocalist who are just about to start their journey?
Yeah, be patient. Like most things take time to be good at, and make sure you practice regularly. You won't get anywhere if you practice like once a month. So like do it. I feel like you should kind of like look at your voice as a muscle because it kind of is like
yeah,
vocal cords.
Yeah, we were just talking with Will about this same thing, that if you are not doing vocals for half a year, that muscle will go away. So you need to repeat.
Exactly. So I feel like even no matter how good you are, if you like, and you can be the master of technique. That's the same thing with training. Like you can be the best at deadlifting, like have the best technique ever. But if you haven't been doing it for like half a year and you go back doing, you're gonna get super sore. It's not a bad thing, but it will like you need to like keep up the training.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah. So, and I also feel like treat it as a muscle, like do it the same way you would do like a workout regimen. Like make sure you get rest between, so you don't do it every fucking day. And also be kind of like what do I want to say, like the word, be kind of smart about it. Figure out, okay, which part like I know my mid voice is kind of like the one that comes easiest to me. And that means I need to practice my highs and my lows more because those are harder for me. So
speaking about like losing voice, I interviewed like also Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse with the same series. And he was wondering when he was doing his like very first European tour that he went after the show to bus and sang like 2 hours of black metal karaoke. And then he was wondering next morning why he didn't lose his voice. So
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, thank you a lot for the time and all the best for the release of the album. Hope to catch you also in Finland with some of the tours you do.
Yeah, we hope to come by someday, but yeah, we'll let you know when you do.
Yeah, for sure. It would be nice to catch up. I'll maybe come to Copenhagen next summer, and if I do, I'll come and grab you at the festival.
Please do, man. Please do. We'll have a beer then.
Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Take care. Bye.
Bye.